What's going on, everybody? So in today's video, we're going to be going over the top 7 hidden expenses when investing in real estate. So just by watching this video, it can save you tens of thousands of dollars on your next real estate deal, or perhaps even save you from getting into a bad real estate deal. So that being said, please smash that like button and let's jump into the video. Okay, so expense number 1, and this might sound obvious to some people, but I've worked with hundreds of new real estate investors, and a lot of times they miss this completely. And I missed this a lot of times too when I was first getting started. Not selling the property for the price that you anticipated. So just because a renovated property might sell for, let's say, $300,000, does not mean that your renovated property is going to sell for $300,000. When you're running your comps, you need to find at least 3 comparable sales. If you just have, one that sold for $300,000 and then maybe 2 or 3 others that were in, like, let's say the 270 range, you got to be conservative with your comps. You can't just say that your renovated property is going to sell for $300,000. I see a lot of investors try to reach for the highest maximum sales price, when in fact you should really go with more of like a median after renovated value. So maybe find 3 renovated comps and then go with the median average of that, because sometimes it's just an outlier. You never really want to go with the lowest price, you never really want to go with the highest price. Try to find something in the middle. Hidden expense number 2 is junk removal. And I know this from firsthand experience. Well, actually, the last house I just purchased had over $10,000 just in junk removal itself. And not only junk removal, but there's also like asbestos removal, potentially mold removal, different things that you might not like notice when you first purchasing a house. Like you might just be thinking, okay, I need to renovate the kitchen, fix the roof, paint, etc. But you might not be thinking that you need to like get dumpsters and a whole crew out there just to remove items from the property. Now, keep in mind that most junk removal is not going to be like $10,000. However, if you're buying a larger single-family house, it can easily be like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. If you're buying a townhouse or a condo, it's probably still going to be pretty expensive, like in the $2,000 to $5,000 range. So that's something a lot of people miss, because a lot of these different expenses just kind of add up at the end, and you're like, oh wow, we're way over budget. So always factor that in. And another thing to keep in mind, though, is that when you're making an offer to a seller, it's going to be much more attractive if you tell the seller, look, you can leave whatever you want in the property. We're going to take the house as is. Take what you want, leave everything else, we'll handle that. So when you do make your offers, you want to make it as hassle-free as possible for the seller. But just keep in mind, junk removal can definitely add up, especially if there's stuff in like the backyard. I mean, the last property I bought, there's like a shipping container, there's concrete structures that's gonna need to be demolished and then removed. So just keep that in mind. Hidden expense number 3 is lender fees. So when you're investing in real estate, you can use hard money, private money, your own money, but whatever type of financing you're using, there's typically a cost associated with that. And where I see a lot of real estate investors making mistakes is that they might only factor in, 1 or 2 months or maybe 3 months of interest and points and things like that. When in reality, you need to factor in 6 months. Too many investors think that they can just finish a project in 1 month, sell it the next day, it'll close in 30 days, and it'll just be like a 2-month project. And in a perfect world, a perfect scenario, yes, that could happen. But generally speaking, you want to factor in at least 6 months for any type of project, even if it's a condo. Always be on the safe side and factor in a longer amount of time. It's funny because I'll talk with like different newer investors or buyers or whoever it may be, and they'll see that a property sold for $300,000 and that the investor purchased it for $200,000, and they're like, wow, they made a $100,000 profit in just 2 or 3 months. And of course, these people aren't taking into account the lender fees. In fact, one of the last deals I just did, I paid my lender over $65,000 on a 6-month term. And to make matters worse, the lender wasn't even happy with me. And safe to say I'll never use this hard money lender again. But that's just one example of a deal. Lender fees can be a huge amount of a cost, or if you're the lender, a profit for that matter. So the bottom line is to always factor in at least 6 months of lender fees. And just to give a further tip, always shop around with when it comes to hard money lenders as well as private money lenders. Like I said, I paid this guy $65,000. I have a private money lender now that would have saved me, at least $30,000 or $40,000 on that deal, which is almost a real estate deal in itself, a 30 or 40K profit. So you should always ask different mortgage lenders, just maybe a traditional mortgage lender. Ask if they know of any hard money lenders or private money lenders. Always be asking around and adding different lenders to your portfolio, so to speak. Hidden expense number 4 is the seller asking for a seller credit. So you may think once you've renovated a property, and let's say you're going to sell it for $300,000, you get a full price offer of $300,000, and you've made the house perfect. You may think you're just done and you're just going to collect your check. There's still something called a home inspection, And a lot of purchasers, when they're buying a property, even if it's fixed up, a home inspector can find a long list of items. If you've ever gotten a home inspection done, even on like a 1-bedroom condo, a home inspector is going to have like a 40-page report of every single issue with the condo. So you need to factor in, $5,000, $10,000. I did a property where it's completely renovated, and the purchaser still wanted like a $10,000 credit. And luckily we were able to kind of negotiate back and forth, and I think we got it down to like $3,000 or $4,000. But that's just something you need to keep in mind. When you're looking at your comps, you can see the sales price, but also look at the seller subsidy. It's not uncommon to have, $3,000, $4,000, even $10,000 as a seller subsidy, even for fully renovated properties. Hidden expense number 5 is tree removal and landscaping. So a lot of times newer investors, again, they think of just renovating the kitchen, renovating the bathrooms, refinishing the floors. They're not thinking about all the exterior work that needs to be done to make the property, have a great curb appeal and get it sold quickly. So if you have a lot of trees on the property, especially if they're in like the front yard and they're kind of blocking the view of the property, like I just had one where I spent, basically $5,000 knocking down all these trees, grinding the stumps, and there's still work to be done. So I think by the end of it, I probably would have spent, maybe $15,000 or maybe even $20,000 in removing trees and also getting the landscaping done so that it looks like perfect from the exterior. And to add on to that, when you're renovating a property, you want to make the exterior look amazing. You want the curb appeal to be like the 1% of the 1% in your neighborhood, because first impressions are everything. They've done studies. If you're going to splurge on something, like don't even splurge on the kitchen. Splurge on making the property look as attractive as possible. When someone just pulls up and they're driving through the neighborhood and then they see your property and they're like just blown away just by the exterior and the landscaping and everything like that. Hidden expense number 6 is staging. So when you're renovating a property and you're going to sell it, the top 2 things I can recommend that you do: number 1, stage the property, and number 2, get professional photography. And any real estate agent that's a professional is going to probably recommend both of those and almost certainly do professional photography. I mean, you see some agents that kind of skimp on that, but it's kind of ridiculous. It's only like $300 or $400. But you really need to do staging. And that being said, depending on the size of your property, staging is not inexpensive. You can easily spend, $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 just to get the furniture in there, and then it's going to be like another $500 to like $1,000 per month just to keep the furniture in there. And that's just for like a normal size house or maybe even a smaller property. If you have like a 5,000 square foot house, I mean, people can spend $20,000 just on staging alone. However, I would recommend it because when you stage a property, it looks better. Buyers, when they see a vacant property, it just doesn't look as attractive. It looks cold. So definitely stage it, but just factor in, at least $5,000 just for the staging. Every property that I've staged has sold so much faster than properties that don't stage. So if there was like one real estate investing tip I could give above anything else, it would be just, stage your property, make it look like someone could actually live there. Hidden expense number 7 is just the transaction costs of buying and selling property. So when I was first getting started in real estate, I just thought like if you purchase a property at like $300,000 and then sold it for $400,000, that you probably make a pretty big profit. It might not be $100,000, but it'd be a pretty large profit. However, just when you're selling a property, just paying realtor fees, transaction costs, title company charges, it can easily be like 10% of the transaction. So you need to factor that into your equation. And that's why I always recommend using a deal analyzer, which you can download for free on my website. I'll put a link to it below. But you need to really have a good idea of what you're going to be making on a property, which sounds crazy. You would think everyone would do that. But a lot of people just kind of buy properties if they think they're lower than the comps. So you want to be very conservative when investing in real estate. Like I've said in other previous videos, there are companies that would just buy properties to keep their guys busy and they weren't necessarily getting great deals. I think a better strategy is to just be very, very strict with your buying criteria and only buy deals where you're going to make like a minimum $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000, whatever your criteria is, and use a deal analyzer. And then also, when it comes to your repair budget and your repair estimation, you should always add an additional 10%. And that could include fees like landscaping and stuff like that. But after you come up with your long list of repairs and how much it's going to cost to fix up the property, always add 10%. I've found that properties typically cost more and take longer to do than expected. And I'm not trying to discourage you or anything like that, because there's plenty of amazing real estate deals out there. I just put another one under contract yesterday that I'm pretty happy about. So there's tons of real estate deals out there. They're always going to be out there because there's always going to be motivated sellers. However, you just need to be very strict with your buying criteria. So thanks for watching this video, and if you have any questions, just drop them in the comment section below. And please subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.